so good. They're going to love it. Freezing rain and ice pallets, walking home, I'm covered in it. I just can't wait to bring this back into the library. Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Alana King. Thanks for joining me this morning on MADPD. I'm kind of an unusual teacher librarian. I work in a secondary school. We have about 1,100 students. And I have to tell you that the number one thing that's transformed my teaching has been to get those reluctant readers to want to come to the library. I mean, they sneak in now and they feel excited to be there. And I want to tell you some of my tips for that. But let's start by thinking about, what does that reluctant reader look like? The reluctant reader might look like somebody who has had a terrible reading experience, somebody who doesn't have parents who read at home, so there's no support or modeling happening for them. And the other thing that can sometimes make readers really reluctant is when somebody says, you have to read a novel and it needs to be 250 pages and it needs to be on this topic, which is not relevant to your life, but is part of the curriculum, and we have a really old book set that's going to go with it. So we're talking about people dragging out kind of traditional things, but really they kill the reading joy. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So we first need to probably redefine for that reader and for all of your students what it is that reading is. In my mind, reading is anytime we receive a message that's been communicated to us. I know that's a really broad definition, but in the year 2017, when media is just exploding in so many different formats, it's really important that we think about so many different things as reading. So I've made you a present. You know that I would, and it's from a curation tool that's called a Scoop It. And Scoop It, I'm just going to jump over and share my screen with you. If you want a link to this, I've been tweeting it out this morning if you want to see it. And I'm going to just share my screen. There we go. So my screen that I want to show you is this one, Resources for Reluctant Readers. And you can see live, so you can do your own scrolling through it. Here is the HTML code. The URL up here is www.scoopit/t/resources-for-reluctant-reader. And again, I'll tweet that out again later so you can have it. It's also linked on my blog. If you go to threadbarebeauty.com, you can see everything there. And if you ever want to get in touch, my contact information is there too. I'll review that afterwards. So I've just put a few things in here that I think are awesome, and I thought we would just go through them together. So the first thing that I want to show you is that you can do it in snippets. I use this amazing tool down here from LessPlan Educational Services. I'm going to click on that and have it open for you. And LessPlan here in their homepage offers a variety of different things. Now, what is so awesome about this? Maybe you've never heard of these guys before, but which is why I want to introduce them to you. LessPlan manages current events content for Canadian kids K-12. I subscribe to What's in the World, and for my readers, I use Reading Level 2. But the exact same articles are here in a reading level that's just a little bit lower if you're struggling with kids who are reading probably more like a grade 4 or 5 reading level. So as it says, these issues are just filled with content. There's 8 issues a year. They choose very timely topics. And then they create things for you that will go with it. One of the things that my teachers love are the political cartoons because it stimulates discussion. There's also tons and tons of types of questions so that you can get to the critical thinking learning pieces that you want to. And of course, there's some fun activities as well. This comes as a PDF. It also comes as HTML. You can embed it, but what I do is I generally photocopy one for departments that are interested. And then they duplicate their own resources onto whatever they want to do. So You can see here a couple of examples. I'll let you go through that at your leisure, but it's really, really rich. If you've never heard about this, I hope you'll have a look, because I can design the content for anybody that I want to. So this is one way as the librarian that I get them hooked, because as soon as they get interested in this topic, it means they want to come and have a talk about it. They'll talk about current events. I talk current events in my library all day long, and the kids are, you know, will say, hey, I wonder if there's anything more about that. And of course, I almost always have a display ready so I can give those topics back to the kids in different formats. Maybe it's a fiction book that's related to something. Maybe it's a nonfiction, so they can keep learning about it. Regardless, there's lots of stuff to read it. Let's go back to the Scoop It. So the next thing I wanted to show you was a curation tool within a curation tool. So right in here, I've got book reviews for graphic novels. Truthfully, this was going to link you to another curation tool that's called a Live Binder. And a Live Binder is a place where you can just curate more things. So I've created some headings at the top here, because the wealth of knowledge in the world about graphic novels and comic books is outstanding. And you're thinking, maybe you're thinking, what? A comic book? That's not really reading. I mean, how am I supposed to get their vocabulary up? Well, I have to tell you that the narrative art form, something like The Secret Path, for example, that's just come out and has been turned into an animation by the CBC, are so, so rich. I mean, when you look at the way that things are laid out, you can see that there's so much to learn. But how do you know that if you've never read a graphic novel? Well, first of all, I'm going to encourage you to do that. But another great place to do that is to start with these award winners. I mean, who doesn't love doing award winners? The other thing is that a lot of people are blogging. I mean, this is a really hard topic. I need LGBTQ graphic novels, and I need them to be something that's not going to get me fired, right? I mean, that's how we appeal to teenagers. We want to be edgy, but we can't go into danger zone topics either. Another great one, all of these journals review graphic novels as part of their mandate. There are print resources. I have to tell you that these are all really amazing books on how to find more graphic novels. Isn't that outstanding? The School Library Journal, you've probably heard of this, and if you haven't, you need to check it out. School Library Journal is hot and active. I will have to update this link. But let's see if I can find one of the general graphic novel reviews for you. Not right now. I will update that and get back to you. News sources, right? New York Times, The Guardian, they both have graphic novel sections within their book reviews. Twitter, if you want to follow somebody on Twitter, all of these, I've put at CBR, the comic book resource, is one of my favorite places to find things like that. The Beguiling is here, which is one of the largest independent retailers of comics and graphic novels in Canada. And they're very helpful by email. I wrote them a letter that just said, hey, I need more zombies. We've got The Walking Dead, but I need entry-level zombies and I need more zombies. I just need a lot of zombies. And they sent me a huge list of things. If you've never heard of Scott McCloud wrote an amazing book. And Scott McCloud's book is all about how to read a comic book and how deep the reading goes. So if you're not convinced yet, maybe start with that one. Websites, these are all great as well. No Flying, No Tights, Diamond Bookshelf. The only thing that not all of these people are people who are working with children. So I just want to caution you that sometimes there will be adult things in there, and it's fantastic. Gail DeVoe was actually one of my professors at the University of Alberta, and she kind of transformed me in terms of a graphic novel reader. So she's a great person to follow. Okay, enough about graphic novels. Let's go back to the Scoop It again. If I haven't convinced you yet, you just need to go to other great places for comics and graphic novels. One of my favorite places is in Guelph, and it's called The Dragon. And it's an Eisner Award-winning bookshop. Look at how cute that is. It is so sweet. So all of these books here are for children, and they're nice and low so the kids can go in and start grabbing them. All of the books around the back are ordered by genre. And the reason that it's so fantastic is because they're just out of reach for the smaller kids, but there's lots that's there for small kids too. So even if you're intimidated. Now, just like the Beguiling, reach over here to the Contact Us page and you'll see that they've got all of their contact information here. They're also on Twitter. And I would recommend, highly recommend, that Jennifer Haynes and Amy Chop are the people that you should talk to if you want to have some great selection material. They will ship. So I get them to subscribe. My school is about an hour away from this location. And it's not the closest comic book store, but it is the comic book store that cares about me as a librarian, as a teacher, and how to find great stuff. So that's a shout out for the Dragon. I wanted to make sure they were mentioned. Okay, what else have I got? Oh, magazines. One of the most popular magazines in my library is called Slam. Have you ever heard of it? Well, we have an elite basketball program at my school, and Slam magazine comes to us, and it is a hot item in my library. So when they pick it up, they are reading constantly, and they're interested in their own topic. Another one, you're going to laugh when I say this, old school, Car and Driver. Car and Driver magazine, check it out. Right? Car and Driver magazine always gets picked up in my library. So I would highly recommend that you get both of those. Let's go back to Scoop It. In Scoop It, I wanted to put a few more things, but I cannot let you go today without talking about the Ontario Library Association's Forest of Reading. If you've never heard of the Forest of Reading, I'm sad for you, but it's not too late. Do not worry. It's okay. Now, I need to tell you also that this is one of the only programs, I'm going to say, in the world that promotes books the way that it does. So the first thing that you want to do is go into nominated lists. And as your librarian, I have to recommend that you go into the archive of nominees and winners. You can go into the current nominees. They've all just been chosen, and the big event is about to happen this year. My tree for teenagers is the White Pine Tree. But there's a tree for everybody. We've got picture books. We've got those middle grade books, Red Maple. We've got French. We've got French immersion. We've got we've got books for people who are learning English as a second language. We've got books for adults that are struggling with reading. And my personal favorite, my favorite books to read as a person are the evergreen books right here with this orange tree. So if you just go through the current nominees, this is how I run my book club. We're so excited because actually tomorrow, author E.K. Johnson is going to come and visit our library. But it's not just great in the moment, but I buy 4 copies of each of these books. We read them the year before, and my keen beans in my book club, they love to read these. I'm not talking necessarily about my reluctant leaders in this case, but what's awesome is that after reading them together, the next year, I've got 4 copies that I can recommend to all of my reluctant readers. And there's something here for everybody. They try to have something that's edgy, something that's a bit gritty, something that's a bit horror, something that's a bit funny, and lots of real-time things. We've got a great book in here, Calvin, that's about somebody struggling with schizophrenia. It's a nice thin book. The size isn't intimidating, and it keeps on going. But best of all, my favorite thing, and this is as a librarian where I started, are the archive of nominees and winners. It's just phenomenal. And it's just a doc. It's just a doc, but you can see that in green, it's listed as, here's the winner of that year, and we can go back and back and back and back and back. I've got to tell you, like, this book Rush, I just picked up another copy at a used book sale because it's that hot of an item. It's about a kid who is experiencing a really strange situation where she's kind of trapped inside of a video game, but the video game enemy that she's fighting is real. And I don't want to give away too much more than that, but let's just say Rush is a hot, hot item. I mentioned on my Scoop It, one of the award winners from a former year. I have never had a kid not like this book, Borderline, by Alan Stratton. Alan Stratton writes a lot of young adult fiction, and Borderline is a phenomenal book. We had our whole ESL class read it, and they were really, really motivated by this book. Borderline is about a young boy living in America. I'm going to say Michigan off the top of my head. And Sammy's doing just fine until 9/11 happens in the States. And his family lives through that. And his dad is pulled in for questioning by the government. And that changes everything for him. That kind of highlights who he is and makes him confront both his faith and also what it means to be a Muslim American living there in that time period, in our time period. So it has a lot of ripples, and it's a great place for discussion. Another book that I think is a true gem is The Rock and the River by Kakla Magoon. And I first found out about it because of the Coretta Scott King Award. If you've never heard about that, it's basically a kind of a legacy list that talks about diversity and focuses on issues of race and racism. I will make sure that I've got that award mentioned somewhere on my blog or in the Scoop It. So the Coretta Scott King Awards are phenomenal. This book, The Rock and the River, helps me talk about really difficult topics, the kind of gray areas between peace and violence. It takes place in the civil rights movement. Our young character, Sam, is the main character. And Sam is 14 and his dad is a preacher. His dad is a preacher who is preaching the fact that we need to have nonviolence and that we need to work through democratic action in order to make slow changes. Now that may sound like a complex issue for some students that you know, but the complexity isn't that deep when you talk about Sam's older brother who disagrees with his dad, and he decides to go to the Black Panthers, and he's joining more of a edgier thing. They're on the front lines. They're promoting violence. They're starting to collect weapons, thinking that this will be the way to overthrow the local government and finally get justice. So it's the gray area between peace and violence that I think students are so attracted to, and I wanted to make sure you heard about that book. All right, have we covered everything? I think we've covered everything, which is great because I've been talking for almost 20 minutes. So if you have any questions, where you can find me easiest is on Twitter. I'm at banana29, or you can find me at threadbarebeauty.com. And threadbarebeauty.com is where I'm a blogger, and I'm hoping that you'll find my book reviews here. You'll find today's posts, and that you'll be able to get in touch if there's anything that you want to know or that you want to talk more about. So thanks for joining me today, and I will see you in the universe. I hate it when it does this. Let me see if I can do it myself. There we go. Okay. So thanks for joining me today. At Banana29, Alana King, coming to you from Elora, Ontario, signing off from MADPD. Thanks very much.